People's inner spirit loves purity, but their mind is often rebellious. Residing in the commandery of Danyang within Eastern Wu lived a Daoist practitioner called Ge Xuan. He was a very important figure in the early development of Daoism, whose teachings influenced later generations. It's been said nearly all Daoist literature can be tracked back to him. During the Jin dynasty, the teachings made their way to his descendant Ge Hong, who was the originator of first aid in traditional Chinese medicine. He wrote many texts, but also penned the biography of his granduncle Ge Xuan. Ge Xuan was born to a prominent family, of which he was considered intelligent. As an inquisitive student, he became associated with a number of Daoist traditions, but at the same time he also read the Confucian classics, their commentaries, and other philosophical and historical records. He became fascinated by the Daoist founders Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi, so sought out how to learn how the Tao worked in daily life. He discovered that desires make individuals selfish and dishonest. The mind creates illusions, which cause suffering. People cannot achieve purity because their minds are not clear and their desires are unrestrained. His parents died when he was 16 years old, which is when he began his obsession over how life works, so he studied the Tao profusely. His name became noteworthy enough to spread north of the Yangtze River, but he preferred to live in isolation in the mountains and forests. His secluded environment allowed him to discipline himself mentally, spiritually and physically, which was required as a disciple of the Tao since it focuses on achieving longevity or even immortality. He travelled around meeting noteworthy people and made visits to Lingyue Mountain, Qingjing Mountain and Luofu Mountain to practice self-cultivation, harnessing the coordination of his body and mind to serve as a form of therapy. There's a mysterious species of mushroom which is commonly known as the reishi or the varnished conch, but it's not suitable for eating. Despite this, it's recorded that Ge Xuan would often eat the mushroom along with Cetos thistles. According to the folklore from some cultures, the shroom can be used to make a bitter-tasting tea which provides health benefits. The thistles he ate had edible roots which are known to cause excessive farting, but the taproot has been considered the most nutritious part, and the leaves are also edible. According to legend, Ge Xuan encountered Zhuo and obtained many mythological scriptures which included the Immortal's book of liquefied gold from the 9 elixirs. When he received this book, he began fasting and followed the commandments laid down by the Ultimate. The Ultimate refers to the cosmological state of the universe and all its affairs on all levels. Taiji, which could be understood as the source, supreme pole, or the beginning of the world. It governs all concepts of the universe, including the relationships of yin and yang, the 5 phases, plus all the material things in the world. This concept design depicts Taiji as interlocking swirls of yin and yang around a central void. Ge Xuan quickly grew to consider other people's wishes as far more important than his own, as he meandered through the mountains and travelled overseas. Thus, his sacred essence grew, which is said to have helped him conduct exorcisms. He became a great healer, who distributed his mixed concoctions around, which he hoped would grant immortality, but it doesn't seem likely they were very dangerous. Even though he was part of the lineage which the alchemical text passed through, he did not concoct any elixirs of immortality himself. Real mercury and real lead correspond to the original yin and yang, as they act as the prime ingredients for the elixir, so this obviously led to numerous cases of poisoning. It's quite possible that many of the most brilliant and creative alchemists fell victim to their own experiments by taking dangerous elixirs. When Zhuo descended into Dian Dai Mountain, he gave Ge Xuan the sacred volumes of numerous treasure. Many mystical texts were included within this catalogue, such as scriptures on wisdom and fixing will, the blames and blessings of the Wheel of Dharma, and the original vows of devil-destroying wisdom. He became a master of esoterica, but excelled at his breathing exercises, which were dependent on a diet which avoided grains and alcohol. He could perform the circus act of fire breathing, and it's written that Ge Xuan could even manipulate the wind, rain and rivers, so some Buddhists consider him a founder of Daoism itself. During his career, he was once summoned to the court of Sun Quan, but the small formation of ferries capsized and a number of people drowned. Ge Xuan was presumed dead, but he appeared a few days later, then apologized for his absence. He said that he had been detained by the water god Wu Yun, but since he had mastered embryonic breathing, that is breathing like an embryo or a fetus would in the womb, he was easily able to remain submerged until he was freed from the water's grasp. His idealized biography goes on to support claims for his more supernatural gifts, such as bilocation, the miraculous ability to appear in 2 places at the same time. During parties, he would often talk with his guests, whilst also greeting and seeing off others at the same time. On one occasion, he even telekinetically summoned drinking cups, which then filled themselves with liquor. He could reportedly point at objects to make them appear, move and disappear, hover himself 3 feet above the ground, and walk through the air. According to legend, one of his responsibilities during his retirement was to entertain the emperor, but he soon grew tired of this order. He told his disciple that he would leave the mortal world at noon on August the 11th, and prepared for his transcendence by wearing his finest clothes, then laying down on his bed. He didn't move for some time, and even though his face still had colour, he was no longer breathing, so his disciple went ahead with the after-death rituals. Things were in harmony for 3 days, but a strong wind blew all through the third night, a gust of which extinguished the candles. The disciple hastily relit them, only to find his master's body was gone, leaving only his clothes with the waistband still tied. The next day, the disciple learned that there were in fact no reports of wind that night, even though it had blown through Ge Xuan's room. He was classed as a supreme immortal, known as the Perfect Protector by the time his scripts were passed down to Jing. He went on to write many Daoist texts himself, but accounted Ge Xuan as witnessing their splendour before him. Jing was born near Zhurong County in 283, as the third son to a well-established family originally from Eastern Wu. Aside from his famous great-uncle Ge Xuan, another of his ancestors actually served in Eastern Wu as a high-ranking official that dealt in foreign affairs. When the nation entered the Jin dynasty, his father served as a prefect, but he died early when Jing was 13, which is when the Ge family went into decline. He became a religious man who abstained from all forms of indulgence with intense self-discipline and did not like honour or gain. He took the name Bao Puzi, which means to embrace simplicity, core qualities, and to be untempted by material desires. He was not particularly fond of classic literature and instead favoured the guidance of the divine, as he studied under one of Ge Xuan's disciples. He never rejected Confucianism as such, but was just more interested in Taoist cultivation and elixirs to achieve spiritual freedom. Even though his family name was still declining when he came of age, he still found employment in numerous high-ranking positions within the government. As an official, he offered appraisals to his friends and family as candidates for office, but he became generally unhappy with this lifestyle. He received a promotion in 303 for calming a present uprising in Yang province, then joined the military 3 years later under the newly promoted governor of Guangzhou, but after he was killed, Jing went to Mount Luofu to live in seclusion. He gathered herbal medicines, refined elixirs, and documented numerous cases of illnesses as he experimented with different methods of medication and their results. At a time where traditionalism was valued and new ideas were shunned, Jing innovated in medicine and alchemy by gathering knowledge from folklore treatments and summarizing his experience. During his time in the Lingfeng Peaks, a plague broke out nearby, so he practiced his medicine to help the locals, plus he also read a large number of medical books and included all of it into his own extensive analysis regarding medicine. He suggests treating rabies by applying the brain matter of rabid dogs onto the bite wound, but more conclusively, found extract from certain wormwood could be used to treat malaria. His method was part of the 2015 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, where it's confirmed that a certain drug extract from the same plant does indeed combat malaria and is now used in its treatment. He continued his research by becoming a disciple under the prefect of Nanhai and furthered his studies on alchemy under him, then received the fundamental Daoist text San Huang Jing, which claims those who chant it can become emperor. He also married the prefect's daughter, who excelled in a form of medical therapy, which consists of burning dried mugwort plant onto certain parts of the body. In 313, he quietly returned to his hometown to try avoid work as an official, but after 13 years he was rediscovered, so was called upon to serve the politician Wang Dao. When Jing discovered that the bright red form of mercury, cinnabar, was produced in Jiaoji, he asked the emperor to be relocated, which was allowed, so he travelled south with his family. He discovered how to create a new golden bronze alloy by chemically adding or removing oxygen from iron and a certain bluey-green copper. He also documented his experiments on the cinnabar mercury by using the same chemical reaction method, which is known as the redox reaction. When he was granted further consent to remain there, he retired back to his den somewhere in Mount Luofu to refine his elixirs. He once spoke of his time as an official in the south. Honour and status are like guests, ultimately common goods. When they leave, they cannot be kept. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.